What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So heading into June, we already are seeing a bunch of gaming events getting announced, and now Nintendo Direct, of course, getting thrown around in different rumor mills and reports. Well, wouldn't you know it, games are starting to appear online, leaking a bit early, and we'll take a look at what's happening with that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about the future of Unreal, as there was an entire announcement and tease that happened over the weekend, and you might be surprised at the game, actually, that it's already been announced for. And then we'll also be talking about Destiny 2 once again, as it's on its way out. It seems like fans are prepared to make a statement, or at least try to have Sony hear them about the idea of maybe the future for something like a Destiny 3, but we'll go over all of that and more. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're going to start today with a very, very interesting looking controller. Now, you can see this message. This was posted up at the beginning of this year from GameSir, as they were introducing this Swift Drive controller that, yes, has a wheel in the middle. They say it's the world's first direct drive FFB controller, zero latency, maximum immersion. And since then, people have had a chance to try this thing out with Windows Central just yesterday or the other day, post this up, going over their thoughts on the Swift Drive controller. And I'm looking at it, I like the idea of some innovative ideas, we can say, for the controller that is at times relatively stagnant with what we expect out of it. So this is fun, but I mean, we've seen this before with the PS1 generation. There was a kind of a shoddy attempt. I think it was like a Namco branded controller for the PS1, and it kind of worked. This seems a bit more serious, as it's going to closer align to some of the technology you see in like the force feedback wheels. The only issue for many people, of course, is this doesn't seem like it's gonna be a cheap controller. Some are speculating in like the $200 range, and we're thinking maybe at the end of this year or the start of 2027 we could see it go on sale. But it just seemed like a cool thing, and you could check out more about this over on GameSir's page, and then also with Windows Central in the recent write-up. Also, kind of as expected, some of the other PlayStation Plus tiers went up in price along with Essential, and Sony was kind of coy about that. They're like, hey, Essential's going up, and then they didn't necessarily talk about anything else around that, but people were wondering, wait, if Essential goes up, wouldn't you then also slide the other tiers with it to follow suit? Seems like they did, and we can see this is over on Tweaktown. Did a nice little comparison here with the percentage jumps. With Premium, this would be for the 1 month going from $17.99 to $19.99. That's 11% jump. Extra now at $16.99, and then Essential at $10.99. For 3 months, it's roughly the same, 10%, 10%, 12. With Premium now sitting at $50 to $5 for the 3-month tier. And I feel like if you're going to look at that and you think you're gonna have it long term, obviously you would buy the 1-year subscription. But I'm also now curious about those 1-year subscriptions. Like, are those going to go up in price here soon? Or is this more a way to try to push people to just buy the yearly fee, and then Sony kind of locks you in for, of course, the whole year, and it is also more money for them as opposed to you canceling after 3 months. But there you have it. The other tiers did indeed go up in price. Oh, and I know we're talking a lot about some of the big events coming up: State of Play, Summer Game Fest, the Xbox Showcase, then most likely the Nintendo Direct after all of that. There's something you should be keeping an eye out for this week, and of course, I will do my best to also keep you guys updated. It's hard to say with the time zone differences and stuff, but we already covered this. You can see over on Komatsu, there will be a Dragon Quest live stream. Now, it's planned for the series' 40th anniversary on May 27th, all right? And they kind of already let it slip on a previous live stream that there will be announcements here. The idea of, I assume, Dragon Quest 12, but there is speculation going around that they maybe could announce something like a remake, maybe a reimagining, like we've seen with Dragon Quest 7, maybe make an announcement for, I don't know, Dragon Quest 8. That would be awesome. Would love to see that. People have to jump through all kinds of hoops just to play that game right now on more modern hardware. So I think it'd be fun to see them go back and touch that up again and then re-release it to all platforms. But otherwise, it's been a while. I think it is time to see Dragon Quest 12 finally, so I guess keep an eye out for that this week. And of course, you can stay tuned here throughout the week, and I'll keep you guys up to date. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with some Switch 2 games that appear to have leaked out a bit earlier, at least shown up online. These were kind of already mentioned, but now we're seeing more tangible evidence of them existing, and this is all happening, we think, a couple of weeks maybe before Nintendo Direct takes place. And the general Direct right now is almost an aberration at this point. We just haven't seen one in a while. It's been 250 plus days since the last one. So yes, there is a lot of pent up demand and excitement for a big general direct blowout from Nintendo that would also include third-party games along with their first-party offerings, with the headliner right now we think being Ocarina of Time Remake. But as has happened many times in the past, you lead up to these directs and things start to show up on retailer websites a bit early, or you have good old D-Labs show up with some information, most likely from retailer backends, and that has once again happened here. This one's kind of strange though, because it is Sonic Frontiers, and they have some information on it that makes me wonder what's about to happen with the current game itself that's listed on the eShop. But like we can see, this is over on the D-Labs website saying following their recent investigations, they are able to confirm that Sonic Frontiers Definitive Edition will be released on Switch 2 on June 23rd, 2026. They're also able to confirm that the game will have a physical edition. At this time, they're not sure if the definitive edition will be available on other platforms, and it's interesting, we've only really heard about this so far through ratings and other people rumors and stuff, with it being a Switch 2 edition. We haven't really heard much about other platforms, so I don't know. I'm almost wondering, is this going to be a situation where Sega does that thing? They've done this many times in the past, where they just sell it again to like Switch 2 owners, which they definitely were getting a lot of flack for that, right? Earlier on at the Switch's generation, just to kick things off there last year. But they've also done this in way of like Atlas, right? Under Sega does this quite a bit. And so here I almost wonder if they're just going to introduce this. And then if you're on the Switch 2, you just have to buy it, even if you have Sonic Frontiers already. Whereas maybe on the other platforms, it's an update that you just download. I'm not sure. So I'm trying to figure out what they're going to do. Less poppin'? Huh? That's something. Or maybe it really is just a resolution and frame rate bump for the Switch 2, because that would be it'd be a drastic upgrade over what's currently available, even through backwards compatibility with boost mode on in handheld mode. Now, there's also a pricing that D-Labs has here for Sonic Frontiers Definitive Edition on the Switch 2. It's $49.99. That is $10 cheaper than how it's listed currently when it's not on sale. So I'm almost wondering if that's going to get knocked down in price, or maybe it just gets completely replaced by this one. So that also happening again towards the end of June, on June 23rd. Sure, that could be at a direct, and then, okay, it's out in 10 days or something like that. Wouldn't be too surprising there. The other one, though, is Devil May Cry 5 Devil Hunter. Now, this was posted up. We can see this is from Necro Felipe. It seems like they're sourcing Reddit there, but it was noticed on a Swiss retail store. So we have Devil May Cry 5 here, I guess just going to the Switch 2. I mean, look, Capcom, not surprising, because they've already talked about how moving games to the Switch 2 has helped them quite a bit. So why not move a lot of other games to the Switch 2, since, I mean, running on the Switch 1, okay, Devil May Cry 5 might have been kind of sketchy, okay? Especially since that game does rely on a higher frame rate. So I think this running on the Switch 2, of course, would be no issue there. So sure, I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of people out there maybe who haven't played it. It is an awesome game. And it might be one of those, I think, technical showpieces for the Switch 2, because Devil May Cry 5 is incredibly well optimized. Like, I played it on the PC on lower end hardware at one point, and it ran pretty well, like on a laptop that had like a 1050 in it. So I think this is a situation where it will work really well in the Switch 2. I don't know if they'll get anywhere near, like, will they get near to 120 frames? Maybe. But that, we'll have to see on that one. However, it does seem, yes, Sonic Frontiers Definitive Edition and then Devil May Cry 5, most likely some third-party representation coming up here in the June Nintendo Direct. Next up, let's talk about the future of Unreal Engine as it was teased at a Rocket League event that happened over the weekend. And here it's like a big tournament. They're going back and forth in these different rounds. All of a sudden, it's like semifinals. They stop for a moment and they do a big announcement and presentation showing that Rocket League will be moving to Unreal Engine 6. And I say that with a pause because a lot of people were expecting a Rocket League to get an upgrade for its engine. It's, believe it or not, been running on Unreal Engine 3 this entire time. And it came out, back in 2015. So you think about it that way, it's like, okay, that's just kind of what they were using during development, I guess, then. And they've kind of left it there ever since. This is a massive upgrade because people were thinking, oh, Unreal Engine 5, that's what's out there right now, and yeah, it's back and forth depending on even like developer, how it runs and stuff, but that's the one that is well known, and many developers are using it, so sure, No, they're just jumping to Unreal Engine 6. Now, there's a few things with this. One, it was kind of shown in a pretty controlled environment, obviously. It was most of this trailer showing off, I would assume, in-engine footage of the game, and it looked significantly better than what Rocket League does now. People are wondering about the physics, which are a big deal for Rocket League when you're playing it. If they do change that up at all, going to Unreal Engine 6, you're going to feel that. That could actually mess up kind of the whole meta for that game. But also, is this going to be a new game? Is it still going to be Rocket League? Are they just upgrading it completely? Is it Rocket League 2? Again, there's a lot of questions on that front. But then also, they went ahead and put out the Unreal Engine 6 logo that kind of looks like U to the 6th power there. But with that, you can see the new logo here that they showed us. And then Tweaktown also mentioned a bit here, saying it promises enhanced graphics, smoother gameplay, higher tick rates, real-time hotfix support, among a few other things. And we're just not sure when it's coming out. It seems like it's being lined up for 2028 maybe. So it could be a while for Rocket League, but I guess that's going to be the first real game that uses it outside of Fortnite. I mean, Fortnite should be the showpiece for Epic Games because that's obviously a massive title for them. But I also think they'll probably partner with some other studios and companies to show it off, most likely on the PlayStation 6 and then Xbox Helix, and I'm sure the new Nvidia graphics card or something to like throw all the settings on high, Ultra 8K or what have you there. But people are looking at this going, man, it feels like Unreal Engine 5 just came out. Technically, it's been running this entire generation with the PS5, and then people say the PS5 just came out, even though we're in the 6th year. So I guess that actually tracks now that I think about it, but there you go. Unreal Engine 6, probably a couple years off still, but already seeing some teases for it. I'm going to be interested to see the benchmark. Things that they talk about that would be more interesting, I feel like to gamers, would be, hey, this is going to make game development easier and faster, because all we hear about now is how development times are just going up and up and up to where you get one game a generation from some of these big time studios that maybe it was your favorite studio during that PS3 360 era. They've certainly stepped back a bit in terms of the quantity that they were putting out. So that's where I'd like to see game development go more and more behind the scenes, make it easier on developers and these different studios so they can get the games out at a brisker pace, we'll say. Next up, let's talk about Destiny 2 and Bungie, as we did have some more information come out, the fallout of everything that's happening here with Destiny 2 being sunset next month, and Bungie, I guess, about to go through significant layoffs, because we got a bit more backstory as to how things were happening there within Bungie. This was from Paul Tassi at Forbes. He has an entire write-up going over all kinds of stuff, but there was one section that I specifically wanted to hone in on here, and you can see some of it, where he says, the decision to end support for Destiny 2 and move at least some amount of resources over to Marathon was made earlier this year. Work continued on future Destiny 2 content, including future expansions like Shattered Cycle, and did not stop immediately when this decision was made. This was because the vast majority of Bungie did not know about Destiny 2 support being dropped right up until it was publicly announced. There were certain teams within Bungie that did know what was coming, but some who were working on final Destiny content for the June update, some who had already been moved to Marathon. These people begged leadership to tell more people, and keeping so many people in the dark divided the studio, and these in-the-know teams felt extremely isolated. That is kind of crazy. Like going to work and the person next to you also working on Destiny 2 content or marathon content, and they don't know what's about to happen, and you know this for like multiple months. Yeah, that's kind of rough. You may even like avoid the person because you don't necessarily want to accidentally slip that, hey, Destiny 2 is done next month. It's like, oh, I gotta maybe keep to myself a bit more than usual. But with all of that, like, so Bungie already, the thought is they're already in disarray. That doesn't help things. But now we're seeing fans say, hold on a minute, we still like Destiny, and we want to show Sony that we do. And that's the thing. I think now more than ever, this is Sony's call now. I think Bungie completely taken out of the equation. It's very clear that Sony is not happy with their acquisition of Bungie. The fact that they had to write down so much just recently in their earnings, that they actually ended up leveling out their operating income versus last year when it should have been historic. Yeah, I think now you got to show Sony, hey, Destiny 3, not as big of a risk as you think. So, for example, they break out the change.org petition because why not? So you can see, I mean, I'll give them credit. It's up to 162,000 signatures right now. It's a petition to Sony to develop Destiny 3. It is funny because that's basically a petition to Sony to then give them money, but you have 162,000 signatures here of people saying we would like that game. Okay. Now on top of this, there is a mass sign-in that is currently being organized, or I guess mass login, on June 9th. Now, this was started over on Reddit. I have seen many people mention this on social media and post about this, and even on that Reddit, it's almost 5,000 upvotes. And the idea, frankly, is let's all log in on June 9th and completely spike that concurrent player count, which does show up on places like Steam, of course, but even on the back end with Sony and PlayStation 5 and the Xbox, this is all tracked. So whatever platform you enjoyed playing Destiny 2 on, or you're just even curious about Destiny 3, yeah, I mean, download it, log in, or just I guess check in on June 9th to add to that total. And that I think that would be the thing that would really speak to Sony. It's one thing to click and sign a change.org petition. It's another to download what to my understanding is like 200 gigabytes of data and then log in and actually play that game. Sony would then see how many people are actually actually in it then. And so that's something I'm going to keep an eye on because I'm very curious to see how many people do log in on the day of that update next month. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Xbox as they continue to bring on new roles and executives to lead the way, or at least try to lead the revival, I guess you can say, of Xbox, specifically the brand Xbox. It's all capitalized now. They're asking people for suggestions over on the Player's Voice forum. And we can see, this is over on Pure Xbox, who does mention earlier this week, they covered the news that Xbox had hired a new executive to strengthen the console side of business in the form of Matthew Ball. He joins as Chief Strategy Officer, and now in a new interview with Bloomberg, shed more light on Ball's role at Team Xbox, which includes plans to revive Storied franchise, in addition to his work around consoles. Okay, those are his two main focuses right now, according to Bloomberg, after they sat down with Matthew Ball. And so, of course, in the comments, people are just rattling off all kinds of different games. They're like Lost Odyssey, Blue Dragon, Crimson Skies. I like the Crimson Skies. I think I saw somebody say Brute Force, and that brought back some memories. Conquer, that was a good one. You could do Perfect. Wait a minute. Perfect Dark. I feel like they've been here, but look, if they could revive Perfect Dark, I'd be interested. I will admit that. But I mean, come on, Banjo is the obvious, right? Banjo 3E, like it's right there. And I don't even think someone at Microsoft, like a studio there, has to make it. To me, that feels like one they can contract out, find a studio that you can partner with who has a lot of experience in making a good 3D platformer and let them go to work. Like to me, the obvious one is Toys for Bob. Microsoft already has history with them. I think that'd be great to see that. But with that one aside being the obvious, and I mean, Blinks, like, come on. But outside, there's also Activision Blizzard. There are a lot of IPs there. And I remember when Phil Spencer, they had picked up Activision Blizzard and they were talking about some ideas they had. He mentioned something like Guitar Hero. And that did make me think, wow, they really do have a lot of games that you wouldn't necessarily think of right away. You know, people go way back in the archives. Guitar Hero, not super old necessarily, but it has kind of been away for a little bit, and it was massive when it was working. There's a lot of licensing things you have to figure out with the songs, but it was a cool experience. So hey, these trends are cyclical. I don't know, could Guitar Hero come back? Maybe, but I am curious to see them actually make some attempts and bring back franchises that actually feel like Xbox. And I'm thinking about the old days of Xbox, so if anything else, maybe they can just treat Halo better, and then they'll be back on track. Speaking of which, we can take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, if you're picking up Halo Campaign Evolved, which platform are you playing it on? PS5 led the way, 43%, absolutely disgusting here. 31% on PC, sorry, and then 26% on Xbox Series. I will get it on PS5. I gotta see how this works out on Xbox Series. Sadly, the PS5 might be the true physical edition because we don't necessarily know how big it's going to be on disc, but the PS5 does have the Ultra Blu-rays up to 100 gigabytes. Yeah, I mean, I have to get it for the novelty factor. I have to have it physically and have that set up with the PlayStation 5 box art, because let's say they do pivot away and decide, no, now now Halo is only on Xbox and PC through the Windows Store, not even on Steam or something crazy. But let's say they do that, then I will have an oddity in gaming. That one time where Microsoft decided between leadership roles that they were going to put Halo on the PS5, and it was too late to take it back because they already made the announcement, and they had the person at 343 Studios on stage with the big PlayStation shirt on. So if nothing else, it'd be pretty good for the collection. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Fernbach, who says, could someone organize an intervention for our old pal Sony? The live service addiction is hurting them and his loved ones the most. You know, the thing with Sony that is kind of, it is very, very disappointing now, especially looking back, hindsight, of course, being 2020. This was a good generation for them in terms of the financials. They've made a lot of money, like a ton of revenue, and they've shown it off multiple times compared to previous generations. But there is a reason that people look at this generation differently than they do the PS3 or the PS2 or even the PS4. And they look at this generation and it feels like the first party Sony studios still haven't gotten off and running. And that's just because it takes forever to make games now. We know that. But then many of those big first party studios that you expect to make that single player narrative experience, making live service games, and they got kind of caught up in that, and that's it. Again, the money stuff aside, because while they made a bunch of money, they could have made a lot more. Clearly, they're writing down Bungie for hundreds of millions of dollars the past couple of times they've had to report to investors, and they've canceled several projects. It's the time factor. It's not being able to put out as many big-time first-party games, single-player games, to sell the PS5 even more, and I'd say be able to kind of complete the identity of the system. That just hasn't really materialized for it necessarily as it has in previous generations. But keep in mind, there's still the rest of this year, and there's still 2027, and maybe a bit of 2028. So I think we still need to see like that last full year of the PS5 on the market, because in the past, that tends to be when some of the big games from Sony's first party come out, and then all of a sudden you look back and go, okay, the PS5 does actually have some games. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. If you missed last week's Newswave, I'll leave it up here in a card. Or maybe you wanted to hear about how Nintendo, maybe their plans are a bit bigger for this current year than they let on with investors. I did a whole video looking into that, and I'll leave it right below. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.